Have you ever been too nice and regretted it? Have you ever been overzealous about doing everything too well and then found yourself in a kind of chaotic day? Next, I'd like to introduce you to a school of thought called Stoicism, which is an ancient Greek philosophical system that centers on the idea that we can adapt to and accept life's challenges and difficulties by keeping our emotions and desires calm. It teaches us that everyone's life should be rationally oriented, seeking authenticity and avoiding extravagance. It can help us manage our emotions better and make us more optimistic. It improves our sense of fulfillment in life and makes us appreciate every moment in life more. In this video, we'll explore where the boundaries of kindness lie, when it can become overloaded, and how Stoicism can be utilized to help us stay sober and maintain good mental health. I hope you enjoy this topic, and I do believe that it will be part of the headspace for anyone whose life is feeling confused. I hope you can see to the end of the video, and don't forget to like this video if you like it after watching it. And I hope you can follow our channel, where we will be featuring new videos every week that will provide you with more food for thought and insights to help you with all the problems you encounter in life. Now let's get started. Lesson 1. If you behave overly kind all the time, people might take you for a weakling. Now, I don't mean you should stop being nice, not at all. Just don't let it go overboard, to the point where you lose yourself. Imagine this. You're the type who'd give your shirt off your back to a stranger, give away your last dollar, or you may say yes 100 times just to bring a smile on someone's face. But watch out, because when people see you always bending over backward, they might start to think you're an easy target, a pushover. Time and again, your good deeds are seen as signs of weakness. Sad but true. People are more likely to take advantage of somebody they perceive as weak than someone they look at as an equal. It's just the way the world turns. Stoicism guides us to build mental toughness, to not be swayed by others' opinions, and to stand firm in our beliefs and values. They still understand the importance of kindness. They only don't let it rule them. They won't be doormats to anyone. They'd offer a helping hand, sure, but they won't lose their grip on their own life while doing so. People respect those who understand and assert their boundaries. It's like a garden fence, keeping out any critters who might want to nibble on your plants. With Stoicism, you too can learn to build these mental boundaries. It's all about maintaining balance. A little kindness here, a little firmness there. Use it to manage the helping you do. Take a step back. Think whether it's really worth it. Is the person really in need, or are they just trying to mooch off you? Will your assistance really make a difference, or is it just a quick fix that won't help in the long run? If it leaves you high and dry and doesn't help the other person much either, maybe it's time to say no. And that doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you strong, sensible even. So don't let all that goodness in you make you seem weak. Not everyone deserves your help, and it's not always up to you to save the day. Be kind, but firm. Lesson 2. Imagine living your life like a mirror, constantly reflecting the expectations and desires of others, always needing others' approval. You become a people pleaser, falling over yourself to make others happy, thinking it's kindness. You can't say no. Here is the kick. Such an act will devour your own identity. It gnaws your life bit by bit. You may wonder, Stoicism, a philosophy championing love and virtue, might encourage one to seek unlimited kindness, but rather it reminds us the importance of balance and self-preservation. The Stoics believed everything in the universe has a reason, a purpose, including our ability to express and feel emotions. Emotions aren't inherently bad, but the trouble starts when it becomes excessive and seeks external affirmation. There lies the risk of personal erosion. The fundamental of Stoicism: it's not situations but how we perceive them that impact us. You are kind because you choose to be, not because it's expected. It is good to offer a helping hand, but not at the cost of your own well-being. Overly seeking approval from others is a slippery slope to losing touch with self. It's a sign of subjugation. You short-sightedly turn a kind act into a tool for approval. Too much of anything becomes a destructive force, just like too much kindness. Remember the saying, even honey if too much turns into poison. Don't get me wrong. Stoicism doesn't promote selfishness, but wisdom. Every time you decide to do something kind to seek approval, pause, introspect if it's aligned with your virtues, your beliefs. If not, then refrain. There's strength in that choice. Stoic indifference. Now that's interesting. When you care too much about others' opinion, your emotional well-being becomes tethered to them. Arion, a close companion of Epictetus, once quoted him, "Freedom is secured not by the fulfilling of men's desires, but by the removal of desire." Desiring approval holds you captive. Be indifferent to such desires. Opt for emotional freedom. Kindness isn't the issue here. The issue is when kindness becomes a chronic need, a desperate plea for validation from others. Stoicism urges us to understand that kindness should be a spontaneous expression of virtue, not a currency for approval. However, it requires training, discipline, to undo a lifetime of habits. But remember, we are not bound by our habits. We are not puppets. Our ability to pause, select our response over reactions, is what distinguishes us. Use this faculty. So, next time, when you are about to bend over backwards, ask yourself, am I doing this as essentially me or just to please? It's not about turning stone cold. It's to reserve kindness for the ones who value it, including yourself. Lesson 3. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you're constantly offering your services, your energy, and your time to those around you? It may feel rewarding at first, but it's often done at the expense of your personal needs and well-being. For starters, understand that giving too much can become a laborious task. This stems from the fact that you might give so much of yourself and your resources that you end up running dry. Envision it as a bucket of water. You cannot pour from an empty bucket, and so it is with your energy and resources. Recklessly giving away your time, compassion, and assistance without check to all and sundry can result in burnout, emotional fatigue, and a decrease in the quality of what it is you're giving. In the philosophy of Stoicism, you're advised to have control over your emotions and to understand that our desire to provide limitless kindness often stems from an emotional place. It's that guilt, that fear of being unkind or being seen as unkind that pushes us. But Stoicism teaches us discipline, self-preservation, and the importance of recognizing our limits. Stoicism isn't about hardening your heart or refusing to show kindness, but rather about doing so from a place of fortitude and balance. The world out there can become overwhelming if you're always attempting to help everyone in every situation. Stoicism encourages us to take a step back, to pause, and assess each situation individually. Ask yourself, am I in a position where I can help? Will my helping affect me negatively? Do I have the means to give this much? Honesty could mean the difference between a self-fulfilling act of kindness and an act of self-destruction. Before you give your energy, give generously to yourself. Ensure that your needs are met, that you're emotionally and physically ready to lend a helping hand. It's a mundane and possibly laborious task to constantly check in with yourself before assisting others, but an imperative one nonetheless. If you're not okay, how can you help someone else be okay? Furthermore, there's also the danger of people taking advantage of your kindness. Not everyone has your heart, and when you give too much, others may begin to expect it and manipulate your kindness for their benefit. Stoicism offers valuable advice. We cannot control others' actions, but we can control our reaction to them. If someone takes advantage of our kindness, we must reevaluate our boundaries, reassess our abilities, and disengage if necessary. Don't let guilt or social pressure make you overextend yourself. Lesson 4. Sina once said, "Unnecessary kindness often opens doors to exploitation." In the quotidian grind of life, we strive for kindness, valuing it as one of our core virtues. But it is quintessential to bear in mind that every virtue has its boundaries. Overstepping those boundaries, especially when it comes to kindness, might not lead to the grandeur you envision, but could invite exploitation and manipulation. The essence of being human is an innate desire to help, connect, and build relations. Nevertheless, when we progress beyond the line, our kindness transforms from an act of compassion to a channel of exploitation. This is the mundane yet cruel reality of the world we live in, where altruism is not always met with gratitude but could be viewed as a weakness to exploit. When you keep giving and not setting limits to your kindness, some may start taking you for granted. Your constant gestures of generosity can appear as a mere routine to them, and thereby place you at the risk of falling into a pattern of imbalance. This imbalance, when not rectified, can corrode the relationship and turn it into a one-sided affair where you constantly give, and the others callously receive. Moreover, the kindness that leans towards the extreme may as well attract the greed of opportunists. These people, adept at recognizing a perennial stream of generosity, will not hesitate to milk it for their benefit. We've seen it happen myriad times. Benefactors getting duped by their beneficiaries. Compassionate souls being trampled under the weight of the exploitation they never saw coming. In the Stoic sense, the pivotal idea is to exercise detachment by understanding the nature of reality. The Stoics emphasize that one should not attach their well-being or happiness to the actions of others. Be kind, but reasonably so. Aid others, but remember your own worth. The realism in this thought process bolsters one's living, coerces them to reckon, and practice boundaried virtues. Guidance in this context isn't about cutting off kindness altogether. It is about imbibing prudence, understanding your value, and realizing that your kindness isn't a free resource for others to exploit. Stoicism embraces the need for humanity to exist, but it also stresses the gravity of self-respect and self-preservation. In dealing with this reality, it's necessary to be just to yourself alongside being kind to others. Encourage mutual respect. If kindness is given, some form of it must be returned as well. To put it in more mundane terms, do not let your heart to be a doormat that people wipe their soiled shoes on. Lesson 5. If you always extend unmeasured kindness, you erect barriers to personal growth. Equate this to watering a houseplant. Yes, water is essential for its growth, but inundate it, and it drowns. Imagine yourself as a perpetual boulder of kindness, rolling down life's meandering path, piling upon yourself more and more layers of expectation from others. This ceaseless giving bleeds you of self-awareness, blunting the necessity for introspection and self-growth. There's no room left for yourself. You are constantly consumed by the needs of others, leaving no time for your own desires, dreams, and aspirations. It's like being stuck in a fog of perpetual giving where there's no sight of your own needs. Growth stems from adversity, hardship, struggle. However, in your ceaseless pursuit of being kind to everyone around you, you shield yourself from these very struggles that shape character and induce growth. Your focus shifts to keeping everyone happy, neglecting the wrongs you should right for your own betterment. This myopia prevents you from stepping back, evaluating your own shortcomings, and working on them. Yet worse, when you're always kind, people's expectations grow. You are turned into this go-to person who'll always give more than they take, and lives under the shadow of constant expectation. The world becomes a demanding stage, and you, a puppet, ceaselessly dancing to the whims of others. This chains down your potential, leaving you stifled and choked in an endless loop of giving. It numbs your sense of self, paints your world in dull shades of sameness, where each day mirrors the one before. Being excessively kind, we fail to voice our dissent when we really should, fearing it might hurt or offend someone. We bottle up our opinions, thoughts, and in the long run, this stunts our intellectual growth. We dilute our persona, our individuality fading into anonymity. Lesson 6. We often find ourselves irresistibly drawn to the task of making everyone around us happy. Perhaps it springs from a well of deep empathy, a need for acceptance, or perhaps it's the ingrained belief that by facilitating the joy of others, we find our own. Stoicism advises us to apprehend reality as it is, which includes acknowledging the gamble inherent in your happiness relying on others' satisfaction. The reality is, in our quest to be the purveyor of happiness, we often neglect our own well-being. A truth that Stoics attest is one can only control their own inner world. Trying to control someone else's emotional state is like trying to hold grains of sand in a clenched fist. It's largely futile, taxing, and leaves you empty-handed. Also, Stoicism illuminates the issue of moral dependency that arises from this obsession with wanting to make everyone happy. The Stoics believe that our moral disposition should be self-reliant. We should act rightly because it's the good thing to do, not because we seek the gratification of seeing others pleased or we fear their disapproval. Always attempting to stifle discontentment around you is akin to placing your moral compass in the hands of others. As a result, your sense of good becomes beholden to the reactions of those around you, a risky venture since people have diverse and often conflicting views of what brings them joy. Another point to examine is the value that Stoicism places on authenticity. Being true to oneself, acknowledging your own needs and emotions, is vital. In the relentless endeavor to make others happy, you may find yourself sacrificing this authenticity. You may dismiss your own needs and feelings, not realizing that in doing so, you're surrendering one of the most intrinsic parts of your being. This concept of overkinness, the endless striving to make others happy, is indeed akin to extending a part of yourself too thin, too widely. It's like a candle burning at both ends, serving others with light, but steadily dwindling itself. Stoicism urges a moderation in all things, including kindness. Too much of it, especially at the expense of oneself, doesn't lead to more happiness, but instead paves the way towards exhaustion, resentment, and a loss of self-identity. In essence, Stoicism advocates balance. Be kind, be just, and aim to bring happiness to others, indeed, but not at the destruction of your own well-being and sense of self. Maintain your authenticity, recognize the dynamics of control, and understand that your moral stability should arise from within. Remember, the light that you shine on others comes from within you. To keep it burning, you'd need to mind your own flame too. Lesson 7. Stoics are practical thinkers, focusing on reality and control. Overly much kindness, according to them, can lead to the precarious state of enabling destructive behavior. This is a simple, unadorned truth they strongly believe. But how does this Stoic perspective tie in with the excessive altruism we're talking about? Consider the story of Cato, a renowned Stoic and a man of virtue. He was always there for his friends, helping out in every possible way. Even when they acted irresponsibly, he was there to pull them out of their mess. But what happened? His friends never learned their lesson. Their destructive habits persisted as they were confident that Cato was there as a safety net. Over time, Cato realized his kindness was preventing them from experiencing the full consequences of their action and thus inhibiting their personal growth. Eventually, Cato pulled back, allowing his friends to face their own trials. This act of his wasn't from a place of unkindness or indifference. Rather, it came from a recognition that change comes from within. And sometimes, encountering the consequences of one's action is the most effective route to self-improvement. Stoics like Cato believe in the significance of personal responsibility and the acceptance of consequences as the key to personal growth. Their lives served as a real-time testament to this belief. So, what should one do when faced with a situation where your kindness is leading someone down a rabbit hole of self-destructive behavior? Stoics urge us to differentiate between things we can control and those we can't. So in this scenario, while we can control our actions and responses, we can't control how another person chooses to behave. Accepting this can be extraordinarily freeing. If you find yourself enabling someone's lousy conduct, take a step back. Reflect on whether your actions are indeed helping them or only serving to further entrench them in their destructive ways. There's a fine line between helping and enabling, and walking this tightrope requires clear-sighted judgment. Spearhead this internal dialogue, ponder the possible outcomes, and make decisions based on what's within your control. Allow others to learn from their mistakes, a principle Cato himself adhered to in his life. Practice restraint. While this may not sound pleasant, it can often be the most compassionate course of action. It is based on the understanding that sometimes people need to stumble to fall and to pick themselves back up in order to truly grow. Have you ever been too nice and regretted it? Have you ever been overzealous about doing everything too well and then found yourself in a kind of chaotic day? Next, I'd like to introduce you to a school of thought called Stoicism, which is an ancient Greek philosophical system that centers on the idea that we can adapt to and accept life's challenges and difficulties by keeping our emotions and desires calm. It teaches us that everyone's life should be rationally oriented, seeking authenticity and avoiding extravagance. It can help us manage our emotions better and make us more optimistic. It improves our sense of fulfillment in life and makes us appreciate every moment in life more. In this video, we'll explore where the boundaries of kindness lie, when it can become overloaded, and how Stoicism can be utilized to help us stay sober and maintain good mental health. I hope you enjoy this topic, and I do believe that it will be part of the headspace for anyone whose life is feeling